Hey church, how you doing? Sitting here with my mate CJ Ortiz, Metal Motivation. He's the fellow I told you about a couple of weeks ago, or last week, coming in to speak to the men this second Saturday. So CJ, just give us a little rundown, mate, on who you are, what your background is, and then maybe just take a moment to talk about what it is you want to be speaking about on Saturday, and your passion to see men become all that they're called to.
Well, it's been a pleasure, first of all. Thank you for having me out and for inviting me to speak to your men. My background is twofold, ministry and communications and that sort of thing. And you mentioned Metal Motivation, which is a personal development project that I do, which is basically Tony Robbins meets Metallica, but since we're talking to your church audience as well.
No, mate, it's my church audience. It'll be okay.
So there's quite a bit of biblical content in there, although not explicitly so. But I spent many years in ministry itself, and men are a huge part of what the emphasis is. And one of the things that's always stuck out to me, John, is the statement made in the book of James, where he says, pure religion is to care for the widows and the orphans. And the one thing that widow and orphan share in common is the absence of a male.
Man. That's cool.
And he goes on later to say that faith without works is dead. But in relation, he's actually referring to what the churches would do in terms of favoring the rich people. So he was saying you show your faith by works of justice, by restoring order, if you will. And therefore, to me, if he said pure religion was to care for these women and these children, then a restoration of true religion is exclusively based on what happens with men.
That's good, man.
And so, to me, any emphasis upon men has to do with the restoration of godly civilization, has to do with the kingdom, it has to do with a healthy society. It is I've heard often said that...
Be careful, he's getting his preacher on now.
I've heard it often said before that that it's a woman's world now because of the influence of feminism and all that. And I said, no, it's very much a man's world. When we spend billions upon billions of dollars to send a probe into outer space to land on Mars to scrape the dirt in hopes of finding bacteria while women are abused and children starve, it shows you that we're still very much a masculine culture, a fallen masculine culture, but a masculine culture nonetheless. Only the people of God, only the ministry of the kingdom of God has the ability to restore true religion, true godly order, true Christian civilization by influencing men. What happens with men determines what happens with everything else. So I appreciate that your gifting, your calling, your emphasis is targeting men. But even though I haven't been to one of the men's meetings yet, I look forward to it. I know your heart because you and I have spent a lot of time together, and you're very unique. It's not just something that you do like any other church does on a Saturday morning for a men's breakfast or what have you. You have not just a calling, but a background and experience in dealing with Ed Cole and some of the other ministries over the years. And just back before we turned on the camera, you and I were talking about where this is right now, because we feel like Promise Keepers is over, and the Wild at Heart really it's not about going out and thumping your chest and climbing a mountain and fishing and riding motorcycles to say you've restored the masculine spirit. We're talking about something very religious. Bigger than that, we're talking about something that has to do with influencing culture, changing the world, pushing back the kingdom of darkness, not just by men becoming men, but men becoming men of God in the fullest sense of what that means. So I don't know that really is going to tell men what's going to happen in our talk on Sunday, but there's a prophetic thing that's happening with this, and I just really recognize the apostolic and prophetic gifting on your life, John, and that God has really called you and anointed you for this measure of rule. And I think it's some powerful things are going to come out of this. And I think what's great is that the relationship that you and I have had now for a few months that they may not be aware of is taking its next step. And so I appreciate and humbled by the fact that you would allow me to come in and share with that element of your church, which I know is going to be near and dear to your heart.
Thanks, mate. Hey, listen, folks, have a look on CJ's his website. That's CJ Ortiz.
Yeah, CJOrtiz.com, CJORTIZ, which is has a lot of the marketing and personal development, and then the specific metal motivation, which is that kind of rock and roll, heavy metal approach to self-help, is at metalmotivation.com.
Awesome. Alrighty, and don't forget, check out his Facebook page. Have a look at all that, and look forward to seeing you Saturday. Click online. I'll have all the stuff up there for you, as far as addresses and everything else, and look forward to getting together with you. See you, fellas.
See you there.